Welcome back to a very special White, Gray, Black weekly manga podcast episode where we are doing a reaction to the first two episodes of the One Piece live action. Reaction for live action. There it is, everybody. My name is Bruce. I am the proprietor of the White, Gray, Black weekly manga podcast channel, and with me is my crewmate, my nakama, Gautam.
Hello. It's me, Straw Hat Gautam.
Oh man, I should have. I have a straw hat. I should have worn it for this. Oh well. Yeah. So the One Piece live action dropped. So I am manga only. So I've seen an episode here or there, maybe 4 or 5 total, a couple of scenes. The Wano stuff's been posted, but I have not really consumed the anime of One Piece at all, especially not the starting part. What about you, Gautam?
I have. I've consumed most of it, and then I watch some of Wano. But okay. I caught a few things from the anime that made it to the show, but we'll get into that.
Yeah, let's get into it. So I just watched the first 2 episodes. I think you did the same. I haven't watched any past that. As the day it came out, what are your initial first thoughts after the first 2 episodes?
Well, I'm ready to eat crow. I will say, I thought there was no chance in hell this works.
Yeah, we talked about this. 3 or 4 years ago, whenever you made me read One Piece and catch up on it, we talked about this, and we both agreed that this is the hardest thing to adapt into live action. Well, one of the hardest manga, if not the hardest. It was impossible. No one should ever do it. And this was right around the time that they were announcing that they were going to do it. So, and you're saying what you're saying.
I think it's good. I think it's solid. From the 2 episodes I've seen, it has its flaws, it has its issues, but I think those issues don't really matter when the things that are right are so right. I think it is the best live action anime I've seen, judging from the 2 episodes I've seen so far. I thought Bebop would be the gold standard, because Bebop seems like the most natural transition from anime to live action.
It should have been so easy. That failure still makes me angry. The fact that I turned that off after 2 scenes. I watched the intro scene and I watched one more scene and I was like, they don't get it. I can already tell they do not get it. I did not do.
The creator felt the same way as you.
Yes, I saw that.
But what was worrying is that I thought Bebop was cast well too.
Mm-hmm. And, it very much was.
Yeah, and after that, it's easy to kind of lose heart, especially when One Piece is the project. That's such a daunting fucking task. But either way, it all fucking came together. I loved the cast. But yeah, let's. What did you think? How did you feel about it?
I felt much the same. My expectations were raised maybe a bit too high, because a lot of the preview stuff was it's amazing, it's great. I thought it was very good. I think in the face of the adversity that we talked about, of how this should be impossible to do in live action, the fact that we get something that isn't completely awful is a miraculous achievement by itself, in my opinion. So I think it's legitimately good.
Yeah.
It's not the best thing I've ever seen. It's not, it's not the first episode of The Sopranos or whatever, which I think is one of the greatest first episodes on television, or the first.
But
episode
that's also an insane comparison, right? Because those are dramas.
It's also apples to oranges, but
this is like a cartoon. This is goofiness.
Yeah, it's very, very good. Let's go ahead and talk about episode 1. Episode 1 is called Romance Dawn, which is sort of the name of the whole starting arc in the manga.
Yep.
Let's just start. I don't really necessarily want to go scene by scene, but let's start with the Garp execution scene. We see Garp. We see. The Garp execution, the Gold Roger execution scene. There's no Garp execution scene. The Gold Roger execution scene with Garp. How did you feel about that scene? Anything you noticed? Anything stood out? Good, bad, changed?
Is Garp the most? Is he Scottish? Is he the most Scottish?
He's Scottish.
Man in
He's
the world?
incredibly Scottish. Yes.
That is the most Scottish line reads.
He's channeling Leonidas. Who's the guy who plays Leonidas in 300?
I forget. I forget his name, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, that guy.
It is so Scottish, but I liked it. I I thought it was a strong start. One of the things I liked about it is the bounty poster for Gold Roger that flashes by. I thought that was styling. What a cool little cut.
Yeah, so they do the same Gerard Butler. That's what it is. Garp is a budget, maybe like, they're probably the same age, but like a budget Gerard Butler. But anyways.
Well, dude, Gerard Butler's a budget Gerard Butler.
At times, yes.
Yeah.
I like every time they did a bounty poster reveal. I like the way that it was like, it kind of like slaps onto their face, wipes off, gives you a number, goes away. That's a cool way to like, that was one of my favorite things. That was tight, yeah. It was a very good stylistic choice. I liked it. But yeah, do you have anything else?
The about the execution scene. Yeah, it was cool. I've only seen it once, so I only spotted Shanks and Mihawk and Dragon that we pointed out in the trailer.
Yeah, we saw the Dragon in the preview. I saw Dragon, I saw Shanks, I saw Mihawk. I think I saw Buggy. I think I saw... There was someone else there that I think
apparently
was...
Young Smoker was in there
I think
point,
Smoker...
I didn't
I saw someone with light hair that looked potentially Smokerish. I'm trying to remember who we know was there from the manga, and I can't remember because it's like everybody was there in the manga, right? So...
I'm not sure. I don't...
A lot of people were there, but...
I think one small nitpick I have about that scene is that he never says... It's like my treasure is all in one place or one piece or anything like that. So
yes. That was my thing too. My little note here is that I liked this scene. I thought it worked. I also thought that it didn't quite land the kind of momentous severity that the moment was supposed to be. I think part of it was kind of the music choice was like kind of already very upbeat and adventurous before he's even killed. Like the whole thing kind of has this underlying adventure music under it, which I get, they're setting the tone, which I think is good. I would have maybe liked sort of like no music, and then he didn't. It's very weird, and maybe I have not read chapter 1 of One Piece in a while, but does he mention the One Piece in chapter 1? I thought that he did. In my mind, I'm thinking he does, but then he didn't in the show, and so I was like, oh, weird. He just kind of said, it's out there, go get it.
He leaves it all in one place, or one, like, he says something approximately like that, which makes sense why everyone calls it the One Piece, right? Like,
yeah, this was like...
But without the context of him saying it, it's like... I don't know why people would call it One Piece.
That kind of threw me off too, right? Because it's in my mind, he's always said it's in the Grand Line. Like my treasure is called the One Piece. It's in the Grand Line. Go get it. And this one he didn't. He was very much just sort of like, everybody should go adventure and find yourselves. Haha, go get it. And then we like cut to, I'm going to find the One Piece. Like, what is the One Piece? You didn't explain it because that is not what Gold Roger said. So that kind of like that part missed a little bit for me. Not awfully, but it was a little off for me.
Yeah, it was just a little odd because, like, you should just say it, you know?
I kind of don't. I mean, I get it on one hand, but on the other hand, it's like, it's the name of the show. Just name drop it in the first 2 minutes. Who cares? Like, just do it. They did it in the manga. Just do it. So,
you know, it's actually interesting. I didn't know that they stabbed Gold Roger in the torso. Mm-hmm. I always imagine, because they never show the execution.
I thought they cut his head off.
That's what I thought too. I thought they decapitated him, and the parallel was we've only seen 2 episodes, so we haven't gotten to the live action part of this. But when Luffy is in Love Town, and is about to get killed, he was going to get decapitated, right? And same thing with Ace's execution.
By the way, One Piece spoilers for this.
Oh, shit. Yeah.
We'll try to keep them to a minimum when possible, but we are current on One Piece. There are things that we might reference and grab. We'll try not to spoil too much of what happens, but other characters are executed. You assume they're going to be beheaded. I assume that's also what happened. It was interesting that they like showed him get stabbed on screen. I don't know. The whole like basically from. And I thought he delivered the monologue great. Again, I don't think almost nothing that happens that's like very minorly wrong in this show so far is the actor's fault. Like there's just a little bit of jank here, but
the stabbing thing wasn't a gripe at all. I just thought it was a decapitation from the manga. But aside from that, I thought that first scene was solid.
Yeah, it was good. it started to have a little bit of one of my biggest complaints about the show, which is kind of that everything that is in focus or in the front of the scene, like the main characters, the sort of main side characters, the main settings and stuff, all looks really great. And then if you go and you look at like the background actors, they're like, those are not the best background actors I've ever seen. Like, those are not the best. Like, I've seen some comments online about like, it looks like cosplay, and it's like, well, it's always gonna, because it's kind of cartoony, but like some of the costuming for the background people, especially in that first scene of like people running off, it's like, okay, they're background characters, why are they running right now? Like, this is part of why I think the whole scene, just kind of like the end of it, didn't super work for me in the same way.
You're right.
Was like,
I was going to mention that, but it felt too nitpicky. The storming off, or like everyone rioting and running away, didn't make sense, or to go get the treasure didn't make sense.
Yeah,
because he barely said anything about it. Like,
well, and
like
to me,
he
the
just
big,
started
like,
talking about it. Like, you think people would listen all the way through, because they don't even know where it is, right? Like,
right, yeah. Well, and he didn't say like, which maybe I'm misremembering, but I could have sworn in the manga he says like, it's in the Grand Line, like, go get it. That's why everyone thinks it's in the Grand Line. Maybe that's just where he did most of his adventuring, so they assume. But
it's more so like he sparks the fire in them, but it doesn't spark. He doesn't spark it like
they don't immediately run
away.
off. Yeah,
they're like, I can't let him finish here. I need to leave and go find it.
Yeah, that might be my least favorite scene of the whole thing, just because like the whole scene with Gold Roger in it's the climax of that scene peaks when Gold Roger like says the thing. There is no like, he says the thing and then people run off and the action is still high. It's like he says the thing and you cut. Like, it doesn't matter what happens after that. Is the pirate age begins. We don't care that people are running off. Like, you can zoom out and show the pirate ships or whatever.
It's pretty rude. It's pretty rude they left his speech before he finished it.
Yeah.
Let's keep going.
Keep going. What is the next thing we get? Is we get Luffy really quickly. I gotta say, let's talk about the shining gold standard. Every time Luffy is on screen and doing anything, I love him and I'm smiling, and I can't ask for anything more than that. He's not the exact same character, but he's funny, he's goofy, he's energetic, he smiles and I smile, and that's like, I don't think you can ask for more than that.
He's perfect. I think this is a perfect representation of the character on screen. It's not the Luffy from the manga, but you can't have the Luffy from the manga.
It's a little different, but yeah, I don't.
It doesn't work in live action. You get the spirit of Luffy from the manga.
You have to. I like that they embraced a lot of the cartoony things, but as far as characters go, you can't go full cartoony in the characters. You have to bring them down to a more realistic level, and I think they did that perfectly.
He cannot be that dumb. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he couldn't be that dumb. He couldn't be that oblivious. He couldn't be that sort of uncaring. Even though we know Luffy cares, he is often shown as just like, ignoring people's backstories and not listening when people are saying very important plot things. Like, you can't do that. He has to be a little bit more normalized. So I think it works.
Yeah. I think he's a great Luffy, but he as amazing as I think he is as Luffy. I love Zoro as well. Mm-hmm. And I think he is like also kind of the perfect on-screen Zoro. But the real star of the show so far is fucking Nami.
You think Nami is your favorite of the first three we've seen in these two episodes?
Yeah, from the first two episodes, she is like 1-to-1 Nami on screen. She's Nami from the manga.
Yes. Like, I think Nami is an easier character to translate because she's a lot less cartoony. But I agree that she is the closest translation for sure that we've gotten.
I also think she may have the best acting chops from the three that I've seen. Not that the other two are bad; they're not. But yeah, she's like. I feel
she's been given a little bit more to do, especially we'll get to it, but especially in episode 2 when she like runs out of the tent and collapses and sees stuff. That I thought especially was like, oh, she can she's really acting. She was like, I buy it. I really liked her. Yeah, I think they're all three great. I don't want to pick a favorite. I do think Nami's very good. We can skip to what
Nami's my favorite so far.
Yeah, we can skip to actually what is. We're introduced to Alvida, who is like okay. Definitely not my favorite part of episode 1. It's a nice little introduction to like. I liked Kobe.
The Alvida stuff. Okay, so this is like a good thing and a bad thing in my eyes. But this is coming from the perspective of someone who's read the manga, so a new viewer experience might be different than mine.
Yeah, it'll vary.
But Alvida was also a weak part in the manga. Nobody cared about
That's
Alvida.
true.
She's,
I mean, to be honest, this whole season is like the weakest part of the manga, in my opinion. Like, by a
but it's still good.
It's still good, but is like the first, everything up to what is Nami's arc at the end of this called? I forgot.
Arlong Park.
Arlong Park. Everything up to Arlong Park is like, I would classify that as like, this is the worst part of One Piece. Like, even Thriller Bark, which I don't like that much.
I
some of the
find
other
it
stuff.
harsh to call it the worst part of One Piece, even though it's true, because it makes it sound like it's bad. But I still think it's like good. Like One Piece.
I agree. It is definitely still good.
Yeah. But I get what you're saying. It is definitely not as good as everything that comes after it, because everything that comes after it is just fucking amazing.
Yeah. By the time you get to Baratier and I'm also I'm curious to how they're going to say that. If it's Barati or Baratier or what, but
I think they
say Barati.
Oh, I think it's Barati, right?
I think they say Barati, yeah, but we'll see. We'll see in a couple episodes.
But what I was saying about Alvida is I think that segment went way longer in the manga. They shortened it by a large amount here, which I think is a good idea.
It's like 6 or 7 minutes long, yeah.
But I think that's good, because Alvida's not that interesting. But I think what we lost from that is kind of understanding Luffy and Kobe's friendships, and exploring the parallel between their two characters a little bit more.
I thought they did a pretty good job of that, actually. I appreciated, at least by the end of this second episode, I think Kobe is in more of the show, so I appreciated that there was we have different goals, but we're both kind of the same. We're both nice people who are looking out. I don't know. The Alvida part, I will say, clearly from what I saw, was meant to be sort of like, let's introduce you to like the idea of pirates right now, and what kind of, and it's definitely more of an introduction
to fruit abilities,
to like who is Luffy, what is his fruit abilities there, and it also sets the tone that Alvida's really violent. We see her just like murk a guy. We're also introduced to Kobe, who I think plays a bigger part in these 2 episodes than he really does in the manga in the same amount. I don't
think so.
Maybe about the same, but
Kobe plays a way bigger part in the manga at the beginning, because there's a lot to do with like marine corruption at the beginning.
That's true.
But and good marines and bad marines and all that stuff.
But the Alvida stuff is not my favorite part. Whatever.
Well, it was zoomed through, so I thought that was a good idea. I just think I still think that we lost a little bit on like kind of a buy-in to their bond. But that's fine. I guess the bond is not that strong at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, aside from that, I thought that was great. I love the incorporation of Nami in
her intro. I gotta say the Zoro and Nami intros in episode 1. Those were maybe my 2 favorite scenes. Those are
good.
Zoro's intro especially, I thought was great. The like sort of, I mean, his fight scene is, every fight scene that Zoro is in, he specifically looks great in it. Maybe all the extras don't always, but McIntyre, the actor who is Zoro, looks great, and he is choreographed in a way that it's like, this guy is actually clearly the best swordsman here. Like, It isn't like they're equal, but he wins, which is what a lot of like, I'm a good swordsman. His fight scenes were
all fun.
His fight scenes were all great.
Dropping the stool, kicking it to get like someone's legs out from underneath them.
When they're on what is
in the bar.
Yeah, in the bar. That bar fight scene was also great. He doesn't even pull his swords out. I'm
glad that they introduced like Mr. Seven and like Baroque works this early. It's one of these things that you can do on the television show that you couldn't on the manga, because now we have so much manga out that you can foreshadow. You can foreshadow,
which I think is
better.
I was going to call that out too. That they're very much setting up Baroque works as like, not like the Avengers project, right? But it's very much, they're like dropping this nugget, and it's like, Baroque works doesn't really matter until you get into the Grand Line, spoilers, into the Grand Line, into Alabasta and all that stuff. But it's so cool that they can talk about how like, the Marines are chasing after him, we learn in these 2 episodes, and like Zoro's been invited to join them. And just specifically, the Zoro intro scene where he fights Mr. Seven, it was like, a great fight scene too. I love that he just chops him in half at the end, and then is like carrying his top half in a bag. I think that's great.
Yeah.
It definitely, I think that's another one of those things that sets the tone of the show, where it's like, there is violence and there is blood, but it's kind of goofy, which is exactly like what One Piece is. So I thought that was great.
I agree. Let's see. We talked about they all get to the Nami's intro scene is great. I knew as soon as I saw it. Did you know when you saw her like passed out? I was like, oh, she's gonna swindle these guys and steal their boat. Oh, 100%.
I think that's what she does in the manga, isn't it? But
yeah. She does it to like one buggy screw, and she does it again to like Johnny and whatever the other guy's name is, Zoro's buddies.
Yeah.
They're not that they never come back around that often after Arlong Park, but yeah.
So basically from that moment on, right? So after you do Alvida and you sort of introduce, although Zoro is not introduced like that in the manga, but Nami maybe kind of is. Once you introduce the three characters, I think it's super smart to just get them in the same location and sort of rewrite.
Nami's not even in that arc.
No, she's not. I mean, that whole arc is just Zoro, Kobe, and Luffy, pretty much.
Yeah.
But I thought the whole way that they sort of refit that whole story together worked, right? They're all
it was great.
They're all there for a reason, right? Luffy and Nami want the same thing. Zoro kind of, is just trying to turn his stuff in and doesn't want to do it, but Luffy helps him and believes in him, and so he comes around to the end. And like I thought that all worked. Their rewriting here is impressive, and that is good for me.
I agree, and I love that scene where Luffy and Nami are like just like staring at each other through like the little like
in
Luffy
the map room or whatever.
Yeah, it was like Mac and Charlie in that one episode of Always Sunny, just awkwardly
in the restaurant,
staring at each other. Yeah, in the restaurant. Yeah, that was fucking funny. The banter has been good as well. I thought Luffy pointing out, it's like, oh, axe hand, kind of leans into the goofiness and
I thought almost every time he had a moment where he's like, I don't get this. How does this work? And it's explained to him, and he's like, oh, okay. Like I thought all those worked. It's like the axe hand thing. They're like, what's the third? Like, where's the third sword go? And he puts it in his mouth, and he's like, oh, that's where the third sword goes.
That was straight from the manga. That's perfect. I like this line where Zoro's like, get lost, and he's like, I am lost.
Yeah, that was a funny nod. I will say that I think the episode 1 as a whole, I think that sort of because the Roger scene is not my favorite, and the Alvida stuff's a little uneven, and then you introduce all the characters. I think like when you get them in the bar, by the time they leave the bar, I had bought in. Like that's when I was sort of like, okay, I'm in it now. Because I liked the way all the three characters acted in the bar. Kobe and Luffy talking was good. Zoro's fight scene was awesome. Nami, when she like rejects the one guy and then chases, I was like, well, she's gonna steal from that guy, right? Like she's just swindling him, and it was like, yeah, of course she is. So I liked all of that stuff. After that moment, so I will say, I actually think my favorite part of episode 1 is Helmeppo.
He was great.
I think he was the best part of episode 1 for me.
The actor was such a perfect shithead. He looked like Malfoy.
Yeah.
I love that we got to see his bare ass.
I did not expect that. When I think the tag came up when I started, it was like nudity. I was like, nudity? Really? Like, but yeah, that was goofy. Okay, I have to ask, do you think there were a couple of scenes where I think they used CGI to make his mouth bigger? Do you think they did, or do you think they just found a dude with an exceptionally large mouth? I think they used CGI.
I think he just has a big mouth.
I don't know. I think sometimes it's just his mouth, and there's other scenes where I swear to God, I'm like, that is just a little bit too. It just looks a little too big.
You're gonna have to show me that because I don't think I noticed that. But
it's really
Had,
subtle.
like Zoro cut his haircut into his like normal manga haircut. It's like terrible manga haircut.
Yeah. I didn't. Now that you say that, I'm like, oh yeah, he did.
One thing for the anime viewers, they in one of the flashbacks where after Luffy stabs himself in the face, and Shanks is patching him up, they play an instrumental version of Pink Sake.
Do they really?
Which is like one of the big One Piece songs.
I haven't seen the anime, and even I know what Big Sake is. It's a big song in the manga too. So,
and another anime callback is the Den Mushi, the snail phones. They make the same sound as in the anime.
I've heard them from the anime, and it was great. The first time I heard it, I was like, "That's perfect. I love it." Like, I know. We talked about this a week or two ago, I think, on the podcast of do we think they're going to make the sounds? We were like, I don't know. I hope they do. I love the sound they make. So
I like how Garp was charging the snail phone by feeding it lettuce or cabbage or whatever.
Yeah, he was like feeding it lettuce at the end. I thought that was goofy. And
That was so
it was just
funny.
like, and it was a puppet. They didn't do a CG thing. That would not have looked as good CG. Like, there's no way.
That was a puppet? Oh, damn, okay.
For sure that was a puppet. Yeah, I think they might have CGI'd some of the like eye movements maybe, but like I'm pretty sure that whole thing was a puppet that they filmed like chewing there. That's why it looks so good in my opinion. So
I will say I think the weakest point for me, the weakest point in terms of casting, and you highlighted it in our notes, it was definitely Shanks, unfortunately.
Oh, you thought he was... I thought he's better in episode 2. In episode 1, I think he is a little...
I thought he was worse in episode 2.
I liked him. In episode 1, I was sort of like, I don't know. In episode 2, I was like, okay, I'm down with it.
Well, here's what I didn't like, right? I think Shanks has to have the goofy, blasé...
Yeah, he wasn't
nature.
quite like aloof enough.
Well, no, I thought he was. I thought he was like good on that angle. I thought he was good on that part of Shanks, but I don't think he can do the intimidating part of Shanks. You know, Shanks has to be intimidating, and like during this is a episode 2 thing, but during the sea serpent thing, that should represent that Shanks can go fucking ham if he wants to.
That worked for me, but yeah.
It did not for me. He just seemed the same.
He was I don't know. He was definitely missing something that I think manga Shanks has. To me, it's more of like the cool factor. Manga, like Shanks in the manga is very much like, yeah, he's sort of aloof and blasé and kind of he's got the laid back pirate, jokey feely attitude, but he's also like effortlessly cool. And this guy was kind of like trying to be cool. And it's like, but Shanks doesn't have to try to be cool. He just is cool, right? Like,
yeah,
it's just effortless. And there was maybe like, definitely not my like favorite part. I still thought he was okay. By the time episode 2 rolls around,
he was fine. And as I think one of the scenes that disappointed me in episode 2 was the sea serpent scene, because I thought it wasn't as emotionally resonant as the manga or the anime.
They sort of separated because doesn't Shanks in the manga, like, he gets his arm bit off and then he immediately gives Luffy the hat, right? Like, isn't that all the same scene? Or is
no,
it's not? Okay.
That's later. Yeah.
All right.
But
it's been years since I've read chapter.
Yeah, but I did like the scene with the hat.
That's why I say that I liked him, is that I think that in the scene where he gives Luffy the hat in episode 2, I thought that worked. I thought he delivered it well. And I think after he... Yeah, I don't know. That scene really worked for me, and that sells a lot of Shanks for me, because he's not in a whole lot of it. That scene and the start of the fight scene in episode 2 was good, when he does the shoots the finger guns.
I just
and
think
all his
he wasn't intimidating, and I think Shanks needs to be intimidating, because that's like half of his character,
Well, I don't know. I think Shanks is not intimidating until he chooses to be, and I think
that was one of the scenes where he chose to be, but he wasn't. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I think the only scene he chose to be was when he tells the Sea King to get lost, but I don't know.
And he wasn't, right, and that was my issue with Shanks.
So this is talking about the flashback.
This is a minor character, right? A minor character with a major role.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, it's one of those okay, and now we will not see him again until 500 chapters from now. He shows up in chapter 1, and then he does not show up again until
he's here and there, but it's like small parts,
3 pages.
Right?
I think someone did the math, and before he had shown up in his most recent thing, I think they said Shanks has been in a grand total of 43 pages of One Piece over 1,050 chapters. Which is
he still makes the top of the popularity.
Yeah, and he's the 7th most popular One Piece character or something insane.
That's why I was a little bit disappointed, because I think that character needs to have a lot of impact, because he's carried by chapter 1 in the manga and the anime. But that's okay. I think that is just a small gripe I have. I don't think Shanks' actor was bad at all. I just
he wasn't bad.
He's just surrounded with people who were better in the first two.
It's also hard to say, because he's not in it a whole lot, and so it's harder to get a full read on his character when he's not in it. And it could be that those changes work okay for the live action based on where they
Yeah.
end up later, but it's hard to know. So the only thing we really have to compare
I
it to
can
is
imagine that they decide to make Shanks not an not have an intimidating side whatsoever. That would just ruin the character.
Yeah.
But either way, that's a small gripe. I thought the rest of his crew was awesome. They looked just like
I liked
characters.
Yasop, and who's the
Yasop.
other gun guy was great.
Ben Beckman,
Yeah, Ben Beckman. I like the three sort of main, the guy with the goggles.
the
Yasop.
meat guy. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know his name. I
don't know
Again,
his name
Shanks'
either.
crew has shown up less than Shanks, so we're not working with much here.
I only know Ben Beckman because he has like they say his full name every single time they reference
yeah.
it. Yeah.
And yeah, so I wonder if, because I think the next two episodes are Usopp arc, or at least one of them will be, I
It
assume.
has to be Usopp. Yeah.
I wonder if it'll be more related back to his dad. Because something that we don't really learn when the crew first gets together is that a lot of the people they meet and interact with in this whole first Romance Dawn arc, the first, 120 chapters or whatever, actually have a lot more ties together than you expect. Like the first time that we meet Buggy in the manga, I don't think he ever mentions Straw Hat or Red Hair Shanks, right?
Yeah.
He might, like, maybe once in passing, but in episode 2 here, he's like, oh
You
yeah,
can set
like,
that
I
shit
used
up.
to know him. He sucks. I hate him. Like, stupid. He betrayed you too, didn't he? And it's like you're getting a lot more of the history that we've gotten throughout the manga, like right now, which I think is the right thing to do for this show. Like, you've got more history, you've got more information. Like, use that information to flesh out things earlier, sooner, better. Like, and that was one of the things I liked about episode 2 a lot.
I love some of the fun things they did, like the trick shot with Yasop shooting like the little metal pipe.
That's episode 2
That
stuff.
was
We're getting ahead. Let's go back to episode 1.
We talked about Buggy. You can't pick and choose.
No, I know. But that's what I'm saying is, like, we've been talking about like all of the episode 2 stuff. So I just want to.
Okay. What else is in episode?
We'll get there. I have budget. Colin Farrell plays Shanks. Everyone is British. There's like a lot of British people that I wasn't expecting, because it's like all of the main cast. Like, Luffy has he's a Mexican actor, I believe, and then Nami is American. Makinyu is Japanese with an American accent. And it's like, but then everyone else is British. Like, Kobe is British, Garp is
Kobe was
Scottish.
great. He looked exactly like Kobe in the
Yeah,
in the manga,
but then it's like Shanks is British, and who's the bartender on Windmill Island is British, and it's like everyone is British. Like, it was something I noticed of, like, okay, every single person who's not the main cast is British. The accent Morgan, I think, was British. Like, all of these actors, I was just like, wow, there's a lot of British accents here, which is like whatever, but it was just something I noticed.
I guess I didn't know it because I in like a piratey setting, it just makes sense in my brain. It's like watching Pirates of the Caribbean as a kid. It just like ingrained British and pirate in my brain.
Yeah. I will say I liked Luffy and Nami going through the Marine base I liked when they ran to Axe Morgan. I didn't remember this because, again, it's been so long since I read the start. I didn't remember sort of episode 2 stuff again. We'll talk about that. Axe Morgan was a shitter. I liked that. I liked his office. I thought his office was a cool setting. I liked that they just made that like as a real set. Someone painted like a 15-foot tall painting of Axe Morgan, like looking like Napoleon Bonaparte, and that's just on the set
that.
somewhere.
I love the propaganda. Yeah, like with the big portraits.
All his like extra axes on the back. Like, I remembered that actually from the manga. He's got like some backing thing. I like the fight scene that Luffy, Nami, and Zoro do when they're in the little area. I thought that was great. I like the action in this is impressing me a lot. It isn't perfect. There's a little bit of like throwing swords where people aren't, which is kind of not a no-no, but people notice it now just because TVs are so nice and big. There's a little bit of that, but
I've liked the fights with goons more than I've liked boss fights because
yeah, I would agree. The fight with Morgan is like okay. The big sort of brawl with the goons here I thought was way better.
The goon fights are all creative and cool. The boss fights feel like a little strange because they were like 3v1ing Morgan and still kind of losing a little bit.
Yeah.
Whereas Zoro just cut like Mr. Seven in half and like bodied that dude not too long ago. So it's a little strange, but it's like a plot convenience that.
Yeah. Well, and there's a little bit of storytelling in there where it's like there's a little bit of, oh, these people don't know how to fight well together, of like, oh, Luffy like falling into Zoro a couple times, and like
exactly.
There's a little bit of that to where it's like, oh, they don't know how to fight together, so they're getting in each other's way. But I actually thought the coolest things I had seen. Luffy and Nami are kind of fighting all the goons after they fall out with the safe, and Zoro kind of is like going to leave, and then he's like, okay, looks behind him and he's like, I'm not leaving. I had seen the scene in trailers where he like does the knee slide and like caps two guys' knees with his swords. I didn't expect that to be his entrance into the fight. I thought that was really cool. He doesn't just like walk up and start hitting a guy. It's like the first thing you see of him entering the fight is him like power sliding on his knees with his swords. Like I thought, like, oh, that's sick. That's really cool. Zoro in the action scenes is super good sword choreography.
I also love his dialogue. It is
it's good.
Perfect for live action Zoro.
And to be honest, it's like way more dialogue than he generally gets in the manga, and I think that's good. So,
I liked. I think my favorite line from Luffy was when he it was like a predictable joke but a good one. Where he says he's stealthy and the ship blows up behind him.
Oh, that was a good one. Yeah, there's lots of good stuff like that. Where
that was so fun.
There were two lines in here where I legitimately paused the episode to write down my note of like, I hate this so much. It's when they're fighting Morgan, and Zoro goes, "It's not just his axe; every part of his body is a weapon." And I was like,
"What did he mean by that?
That's so cringe." It's just a cringe thing that's like a generic action shitty thing to say. But like, I hated that the very next thing that they say is like another shitty line where Luffy is like, "I'll go high, you go low." It's like, stop doing that. That was not cool. Like, that stopped being cool in like 1989. We had done it too many times in the 80s. It's not cool anymore. You go high, I'll go low. Stop doing that. That was just a moment right there where they like had two of the worst, cringiest lines. Like, that was the low point of the episode, where I literally had to pause it and take a note of how much I hated those two lines back to back. That being said, I liked the Gum Gum Whip. I thought that was really cool. All of Luffy's stretchy stuff looked pretty good in my opinion, which we
it was I think it took like a little bit to get used to, but it's fun.
I especially like the whip, because it's like, it wasn't like, oh, Gum Gum Whip and Morgan's like head goes aside. It's like, no, Morgan goes flying. Like, it's powerful. Luffy is shown to like, and the same thing with Alvida when he punches her, right, is it isn't like a normal punch. It's like a big, like, he's strong. You can already tell, like, okay, yeah, Luffy's a fighter, which is good.
I did like, so there was a scene that shows Zoro's like copious strength. Usually that's in the buggy arc, but they did it with the safe this time.
Yes.
And I thought it was a cool inclusion. Knowing that they wouldn't do it in the buggy arc, they still showed that exact scene where Zoro just kind of effortlessly one hands the safe.
Yeah, I also like that it immediately. One of the first things that they do when Luffy pulls up to Alvida, right, is that like a guy shoots him and the bullet bounces off, which like that's actually super good sort of character building storytelling, because it's like immediately you know that in this world now all of Luffy's encounters, like, guns don't matter. So you already have to say like, okay, there's other fights coming, right? Is you've already kind of negated guns as a weapon that are useful against Luffy. It's like, I thought that was super smart to just do that right up front. Like, don't worry.
It was also pretty funny. There was a scene with Helmeppo at the end where he had a gun pointed at all three of them. They're just like, they truly don't give a shit.
Yeah,
they're just laughing at him.
Yeah.
Good
any last thoughts on episode 1?
Now let's scoot along to episode 2.
You want to give it a score of like out of 10 of how you felt about episode 1?
Yeah, sure. 7?
Yeah, I think I'm right around there too. I think episode 2 is better, I will say for sure.
I think episode 2 is a lot better.
Yeah, like I agree. Like, I think substantially better. I thought episode 1 was good. I thought it was a little uneven, was the main thing, where it's like, if any of the main 3 crew are on screen, and especially if they're interacting with each other, I loved it. If there was anything else going on, I didn't like it as much. Like, and it was sort of substantial enough for me to notice that it's like, oh, if it's, Morgan talking to another Marine, it's like, okay, dialogue's not as good. But if it's like Luffy and Nami are on screen, I'm like, yes, hell yes, I'm into this. These characters are great.
I'm a fan of Garp. This might be an episode 2 thing, actually, where he's questioning Kobe. No, that's episode 2. Yeah,
that's episode 2. Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah, there's a lot more Garp in episode 2. We'll talk about it, because I definitely have some thoughts on on Garp. I think I would give this episode like a 7 also.
It was good. It was a strong start. But
Yeah,
I mean, like I wouldn't like. I think the source material I'd give an 8. Right. So it's like
I think I would give this if you did like the first chapter, all the Alvida stuff, all the stuff with Zoro, and maybe Nami's introduction. I think I'd give that part like a 6 or a 6.5. Like it's.
I don't agree.
Maybe a 7. Maybe a 7. I don't think it's an 8. An 8 is like solid B. Like really good.
It was better.
Of
In my opinion, it was better than the show, but that's just due to the nature of the manga being long and it being able to fit character development in. But it's not. It's just like a hard comparison to make between manga and show when manga has the luxury of being so much longer without having to worry about screen time and audience retention.
Yeah, and they totally cut the whole arc of the dog, which is like an entire chapter in the next part.
That was a little bit rough, I admit, because the dog part was, I feel, pretty core. And I'll explain why later, but let's get into it.
Yeah, so let's get into episode 2. Episode 2 is called The Man in the Straw Hat. My immediate take on something that I loved that they did is that the opening title, when they flash it, is different. It's the Buggy title. I think as soon as I saw that, I was like, yes, I love that. Because there's so many cool Jolly Rogers, there's so many cool characters, there's so many cool different takes you can put on that One Piece title that they've designed. And so as soon as I saw the Buggy, I was like, hell yes. Like, we're going to get one of these there's going to be one for Zeph, there's going to be one for, there's going to be like a crocodile one and a chopper one. There's going to be all these different plays on it coming forward, I hope.
Yeah, matching all their different Jolly Rogers depending on...
exactly, yeah. If they're going to run into some other crew, the Jolly Roger's going to be there. So, yeah, I'm excited. That's such a minor little thing, but little things like that show me that they care and that they're willing to put some money to have someone design a brand new 3D logo with Buggy's face on it instead of the regular one that they already paid money to design. Like, I appreciate stuff like that a lot.
Me too. And, I mentioned I loved fucking Zoro and Luffy, and my standout was Nami. My standout is still Nami after this episode, but tied with Buggy. Buggy was so fucking good.
Buggy is so good in this. Yes. Yeah. The guy they got to do it gets that character. And I think, I think he was great. I should look up the actor's name to call him out real quick. But yeah, Buggy was great. Even the tease of him at the end, which again, they do the little, the wanted poster goes over his face and he kind of wipes it, grabs it away, and it says 15 million.
That was so great.
The little tease at the end of episode 1.
That was styling. I thought the Buggy intro in this was arguably better than the source material's intro of Buggy. Like, I thought it was that good. It was so fucking fantastic. The energy the actor brought, and I don't know. I feel like everything about Buggy just worked perfectly.
Jeff Ward is the actor's name who plays Buggy, and he killed it. I definitely
great job to Jeff.
This definitely the start of episode 2, where it's just the 3 Straw Hats on the boat, is like, again, when any of those 3 are on screen interacting with any other of the main characters, it's great, right? Like Luffy, like Nami trying to crack the safe, Luffy annoying her, like Zoro in the back trying to take a nap. They're all just kind of like, complaining at each other and stuff.
I was worried that we wouldn't have time for the interim bits that they all do together, like the banter they have, which is like I feel like is like really important to establishing the Straw Hats dynamic.
I agree.
And I'm so glad it's there.
Yeah, it's a super, like, again, I think this shows that even though there are some shortcomings in this show, the creators get it. They get that there need to be scenes that are just the Straw Hats on the boat doing stupid stuff or complaining and like getting, some plot stuff out of the way or whatever. So yeah, I really like that scene. Episode 2 I thought was better. One of my complaints that I think I had when we talked about the trailer that came out, when we did a reaction to that, was that some of the camera shots looked a little Netflixy, right? Netflix has this style of camera where I can't explain exactly its lens or focal length or like smudges around the edges or something like that, or color grading, or a combination of all those things, where you look at something, you go, oh, it's a Netflix show because it looks like that. And there's more of that in episode 1 than there is in episode 2. Episode 2 looks a lot better when Buggy like sleep bombs them or whatever, and they come out and they're looking up. That looks really cool. Luffy on the front of the boat.
His chop to sleep bomb Luffy a second time.
Yes, that was also
with a little
great.
magic trick. That was
perfect. Yeah,
very cool. Yeah,
very Buggy thing. But like even Luffy on the front of the ship and that sort of like wide angle where you can see the whole ship and stuff like that's great. The show is like not as poorly shot as a lot of other Netflix shows. Like I'm thinking of like I know everyone loved Wednesday, and I watched almost all of that show, and that is like one of the most boringly shot shows. It just looks like a Netflix show. There's like nothing interesting about any of the camera angles here. They're actually doing some interesting stuff here, especially with Buggy, especially with the ships, and it was great. But yeah, they get captured. It's great. I actually think my favorite part of the Buggy tent stuff was definitely Zoro and Nami, like just having their little talk about that. It's interesting because it's a lot of, not like inner monologue, but it's a lot of Zoro kind of like convincing himself that like, oh, this Luffy guy like actually believes in me. We got to go back and save him. And Nami also kind of coming to like, okay, I'm not going to leave you. I'm going to save you, and we're going to go get Luffy. Like it's the first steps. It's nice to watch.
That part didn't work for me that much.
Really?
But I liked the Nami Zoro scene because I thought their chemistry was really good with each other, and the banter was in the manga, and it was reflected perfectly here. Where Zoro clearly doesn't trust her, but he trusts Luffy, and Nami is just being Nami there, right? She doesn't need to be trusted, but kind of wants to be. And they're just having a back and forth, and I thought it was a great back and forth. But here's what I thought didn't work is and this is just due to the nature of adapting so much in so little time, is that it feels like not much time has passed, yet they have a bond that is a bit too strong, and I think that's the small issue with skipping over like parts of the manga where, like in the manga, Luffy does a lot more for Zoro than just untie him. He gets his swords. He
goes and gets his swords for him. Yeah.
He saves the little girl from Helmeppo on Zoro's behalf because he knows it's important to Zoro. So he does like a lot to earn his trust. Like unintentionally in his own Luffy way, that does earn Zoro's trust with his sincerity. But here he more or less unties him. So the bond feels less earned by result, but that's okay. I think that's just the nature of a television show adapting.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you that Luffy did less and it is a little less earned. I do think that part of what I liked about all those scenes together is that in the very first, like the first time we see Zoro and Nami tied up, they're sort of like, I don't trust, like Zoro is like, I don't trust you. She's like, well, haha, whatever, you don't have to. And he's like, you're just going to unlock yourself. And she's probably thinking like, yeah, I am. Because she, sold him out or whatever, like a second before. I think that the cool thing I liked about those scenes was that this kind of like the more that they talk and discuss things, and then when they go through with what's his name, the knife dude, I think that them like going through that and helping each other out and then going to help Luffy at the end, that to me felt like a natural part of like, hey, it was very like, hey, we're in this dangerous world, and if we don't help each other out and we're all alone, it doesn't work, right? Nami tries to go off on her own and it doesn't work. Zoro tried to go off on his own and it didn't work. And suddenly you have this chance to have people to have your back, to have a crew, and they do, and it does work. To me, that worked for me as a sort of emotional arc, because I don't think at the end of episode 1 or even the start of episode 2, I really believed that like they're not really a crew yet, in my opinion. But I think at the end of episode 2, they're on the path now to becoming a crew, and like they're closer. So I like that development through the episode. I think a lot of that development happens in those scenes between Zoro and Nami, because
I feel like it's all tell don't show, but I think that's an inevitability. With I keep saying it, but it's just an inevitability with doing like 100 chapters of character progress in an episode, right?
I just thought it was good.
and
It
for
was
what
good
it-
use of the time, right? Because
Yeah,
because
it was
we're
good use
shortening
of-
the time, and it's like, what's the best way to use that? And I thought they did a good job with the sort of, it's like 3 scenes or 4 scenes maybe with the two of them in that room, and I thought
Well,
that's like
in that regard, I'll say they worked with what they had.
Yeah.
They needed these characters to be connected, and they only had an hour to do it, and I think they did the best with what they had there.
yeah.
And it's more or less a small gripe because this is from the perspective of someone who hasn't watched One Piece is how I'm thinking about it right now, because I already understand their dynamic.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I thought like Buggy was fucking hilarious. All of his jokes landed. Only one joke didn't land. It felt stilted. And tell me if this is the same joke that you're thinking of. It's the nose one.
Like where he gets mad about the nose all the time.
Well, it's Luffy's like, I bet everyone knows about you. That felt like just an unnatural dialogue because nobody. Really
I will say,
that.
as much as I liked Buggy and his actor, the one thing that I wish they had done a little bit more of, just because, and this is not something that actually happens it happens a little bit in Buggy's arc at the beginning, but it happens more and more as time goes on, is as time goes further and further on, you realize that Buggy is like kind of all talk and like no game, right? Is that every time he's like, I'm this mean, nasty bad guy and I'm going to do bad things. And then he like tries and fails. And it's the same with like, oh, I'm the really funny guy. And he like tries and I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of like him trying to tell a joke, but it's like really bad, and he like thinks it's hilarious and nobody else does and stuff. I would have liked to see a little bit more failure from Buggy.
But that was like everything, right? Like he's forcing people.
There was a little bit of it. It definitely existed. I would have liked to have seen it, just because I think that is more of the characterization we get of Buggy as time goes on.
Personally, I thought that was like every single one of Buggy's jokes. He's like, he had to hold up the laugh card to get any kind of reaction.
Well, it wasn't so much the jokes. I think it was more the threats and the violence and stuff. I would have liked to have seen that be reversed on a little bit more. They did do one time where he's like, when he's talking to Luffy in the glass box, and he like hits his head or something, and he's like, right, like he does something, and he like hits his hand or his head and it like hurts him. Like I would like to see more of that, right? Where it's like, oh, Buggy's trying to be. He thinks he's the kind of guy that can be king of the pirates, and every time he tries to be like intimidating or bigger than himself or too funny or like big and scary, he just like always falls short. And the other joke is he always falls short, but then somehow stumbles into success later, which is kind of
to be honest, Buggy was kind of like intimidating when he first introduced. Well, intimidating
exactly,
quote
yes.
quote.
I agree. He was for sure,
and becomes kind of a joke towards the end of his fight when they kick him in the balls and turn him tiny.
Yes. I agree totally with that.
But so I thought like honestly everything about Buggy worked. Everything about
it definitely
about that
it matched to his first part of the manga for sure. I think what I was saying was just that because we know more about Buggy, because we've read more, and because there's more on the page for them to draw from, I wish they would have maybe gone with more of the modern chapter of Buggy where he's a bit more useless. In the beginning, you're right. He's much more capable and scary until they embarrass him at the end, which they did here, and that definitely did work. I think I wish they had done a more modern approach to it, where he's a little bit more of a failure, but he's still leading this crew somehow. I don't know.
I think it's good because he's a failure in the future because he's been in prison this whole time, hasn't kept up with the power scaling. Yeah. I think it works better there because I think they still want him to be the first boss of this
true.
quote unquote game. So I think it felt good personally, and
I didn't dislike it. I think I figured it out. I just like where Buggy is now a lot more than where he started, and they definitely go. They definitely go. This episode is maybe not 1-to-1, but is much, much, much closer to just that first arc that Buggy shows up in. And I'm just like, well, I like new Buggy more, so I wish I would have given me that, but I'm totally okay with what they gave me. So
I prefer it this way because I think he has to start off kind of intimidating to make him being a failure funny.
I agree with that for sure.
I liked his crew. His crew looked 1-to-1 like they did in the fucking show in the manga.
I definitely remember comb over long hair guy. That was a design that is memorable. Yeah, I liked Zoro had a line whenever they get captured, where Luffy's like, oh no, it's not the Marines, it's pirates. I love the line that Zoro says where he's like, good, like pirates are easier to kill. I know
that was hard, dude. I love that.
Zoro goes hard in this. I like that he's like super serious. I love that they're just kind of playing him as like he's the straight man, he is not the goofy whatever. We talked about this earlier, I think, but Luffy has a line in episode 1 where he's like, all the cool guys say the names of their moves, and Zoro's like, no, they don't. I can guarantee you, I think, in episode 7 or 8, one of the last episodes, he's going to yell out one of his like onigiri slashes, and he's going to like look at Luffy and they'll like nod to each other. I hope they do that so bad. I'm desperate for that moment.
I love that Luffy was proven wrong in episode 2, where the only other person who yelled out their move was Buggy yelling "Chop Chop Cannon."
Yeah, was like, the two stupidest, most like goofiest characters we've seen. Luffy and Buggy are like, yeah. I will say, I also
his effects, right?
His effects were really good. I love that the reveal is when Luffy punches him and his head just pops off. Although that was maybe the roughest CGI we got was Buggy's head. It was like, they didn't stick on it too long. They didn't do too much of it. So I was like, ooh, that doesn't look good. But a lot of the other CGI cuts with his head were better cuts. For some reason, that one with the head in her lap was not as good. But overall, the effects are still really good. But yeah.
I kind of wish that Zoro wasn't in that fight, like in the manga, because it's kind of silly seeing him get like hit by a limb and falling down.
Yeah.
But it makes sense when it's Nami, who's a non-combatant, really.
Although she does a lot of fighting in these 2 episodes.
Yeah. Like she's not like a fighter, so it makes sense when she gets staggered like that. Whereas Zoro is like just this ultimate badass, so it's like a little silly watching a clown arm hit him in the face and him reeling backwards.
It is, I also think that there's a little bit. It shows a little bit that Zoro is an excellent swordsman, but he has ways to grow, which we're going to get to, I think, later whenever we meet, what's his name? The swordsman. Mihawk, yeah. Which is hopefully just going to absolutely embarrass him and be like, you got a long way to go, kid.
I'm looking forward to that scene.
I particularly liked in this episode, I think all the scenes with Buggy and Luffy, like talking about Shanks, when he's on the stretching thing, when Buggy's like trying to get at him and be like, oh, take his hat. It's like, oh, because like Shanks betrayed you, didn't he? And like, I thought that all those scenes were really good. And I think that one of the reasons that episode 2 is so much better than episode 1 is that the flashbacks to Luffy's origin story and the conversations between Luffy and Buggy are like really well cut and really well paced together. Like that story flows really well in this episode 2.
Agreed. And I also like that he was filling the tank with seawater, and he said it was seawater, but he didn't explain that devil fruits are weak against seawater. He just left.
The bartender, what's her name, explains it at the start of the episode, right?
Oh, do they? Maybe I just
yeah, because at the very start, when Luffy punches the chair, and she's like, when he's like putting it together, she's like, do you know? She's like, what do you know about devil fruits? He's like, I know they taste bad, and she's like, well, it means that that you take on the curse that the seas betrayed you and the sea will sap your power. She says something like that. So we get 2 examples of it in that episode. But yeah, I really liked all that stuff. The seawater stuff is good. The whole last fight scene is good. They do basically the exact same thing, lock his limbs in boxes and stuff. We had seen it in... Yeah. What was that? Sorry?
Turn him into a little tiny guy and shoot him away. Yeah.
Yeah, that was maybe a little bit of a... That was like a... They cut to that maybe too quick, where it was like all of his parts are in boxes, and then it's just like boom, smash cut. He's hands and feet on a head. And it was like, oh, okay, can he do that? The parts go together like that?
Yeah, it's okay. It was just some silliness.
It's goofy though. Yeah, I hope that Buggy is like a C plot in every season, where you get to get like a little bit of what Buggy's been up, like how he's been failing, how he just like fails upward continually. So a little slight spoilers, but
his prison life.
Yeah, exactly. Because man, one of my favorite panels in all of One Piece is like
I know exactly. Where
I can't even remember the exact context of it, but I think it's Buggy talking to Luffy. Where it's like, "Oh yeah, you remember when we blah blah blah," and Luffy's like, "No," and it's like the sad Buggy face. Is like such a good panel.
Yeah, it's like Straw Hat. Do you remember my infamous Buggy bomb? And
yeah, that's what it is.
He's like, no.
He's like, no. And it's just such a sad face after that. Yeah, what else was good in this episode?
There. Hold on. I had.
Oh, the flashback stuff. The fight scene here was really good. We mentioned that earlier, but was it Yasop like ricocheting the bullet to get the guy?
Yeah, that was cool.
That's cool. That's cool as a manga reader, right? If you haven't read the manga, you probably don't know. But so Yasop and someone who is related to Yasop, who we'll meet later, are both kind of known for like being sharpshooters and trick shot guys. And that's a cool little character moment that you get from an action scene. And like building character through an action scene is, one, I love it. Two, it's kind of a difficult thing to do a lot of the times unless you're really good at action. But like the guy with the meat stick fighting with his meat stick, and Yasop ricocheting the bullet, and Ben Beckman just being a badass. Like watching those three fight with Shanks, I thought that fight scene was really good.
That was very fun. It was just super fun. They gave more to the crew than they did to Shanks, even in that fight. But I enjoyed it. That was a great time.
Yeah.
And you know, like the complaint I had earlier about like the bond between them feeling a bit unearned. I still feel that way about it at that point, but I think the moment where Nami sews up and fixes Luffy's hat
at the end
was fucking perfect. Like
it's great, yeah. Like I said, I think that
I felt like the bond there. That was awesome.
For sure. I mean, and I think that's why episode 2 is so good, is that in episode 1, kind of the plot forces these characters together. In episode 2, I felt like the characters actually grew closer. So that's why I think it was better. It was better for me. Let's talk about something that it sounds like we disagree on. I really liked the Sea King and Shanks scene. I thought that was cool. I thought that was good CGI. I liked that we see, minor spoilers, I liked the way that they did Conqueror's Hockey there.
I thought
that worked for me.
The I thing was good. And I thought the Sea King also looked good. I thought Shanks' acting was the part I didn't like that much.
I actually, I mean, it's not like, I wasn't like blown away. It's not super memorable, but I liked like the get lost. Like I thought that's cool. Like that's
I thought that was
not that cool. I don't know. This is what I said. I think we disagree on this. That part I thought was neat. It to people who are not readers, who are just seeing that, all of that stuff might just not work or not make any sense for them. I'm not sure. But I do think that it maybe gives you a little hint.
Without understanding what hockey is, right? Like, because that was still the pilot chapter of One Piece, and it still worked, right?
Right. Well, it also, I think, gives you a little hint that clearly you know that people have superpowers here. Shanks is a captain. He appears to not have a devil fruit, but then you show that he can do this. It's like, oh, so he's got there's some kind of other superpower. I think it's good foreshadowing for what we'll learn. Probably not in season 1, but maybe in season 2 we learn about hockey.
No,
it'll be it's Inez Lobby before we learn about hockey, right?
Yeah, there's so much before that. Who knows how they restructure this, though, right?
I think they might. I think they might and probably should restructure to bring hockey in a little bit earlier, but we'll see. But again, for me, just to get an opinion, I thought the Get Lost and the way that they sort of the sound design and the visual design around the use of Conqueror's Hockey there to get rid of the Sea King was really cool, and the fact that like again, it's one of those things where. And again, I think you're going to tell me how this didn't work for you, but because Shanks is supposed to be this sort of like laid back, cool, confident guy who then can whip out this he's like immensely powerful, is like the top two or three at this point, probably like top 5. He might be like top 10 right now. When Luffy's 10 or whatever, right? He's like maybe a top 10 strongest pirate, maybe not even that strong. Anyways,
he's like number. Like in the series, like Strongest Pirates, he's like top 1 or 2. He's probably
now. I was saying like 10 years ago when Luffy was 10, would he still be top 1 or 2? I don't think so.
I don't know. It's hard to tell.
Right? It's a weird thing to think about. But anyways, I liked that it showed like because you're kind of wondering. I mean, we're not because we know, but trying to think about it from an outside perspective, you're kind of wondering like. Okay, we get that he's the captain because he's sort of cool and calm and he commands the respect of his men, but you don't really know why. Like, if he's not going to fight, he doesn't really fight in that one fight scene we saw, at least not very much. So it's like, okay, why is he the captain? Why is he the strongest? What's the deal? And to see him go out and like stare down a sea monster and just tell him to get lost and use some kind of mystical magical power, and the Sea King just does, and to lose an arm and just to be okay with it. I think all of the stuff. From that scene on, was my favorite parts of Shanks was like the Conqueror's Hockey use, him giving away the hat. I thought that scene was really well done.
So don't get me wrong. I absolutely love those moments too. I just wish they were conveyed better. That's my gripe.
What do you think was not conveyed well enough in those?
I
scenes?
think Shanks did not look intimidating at all, and he didn't it didn't communicate the anger in his face when talking to the Sea King at that time. You know, like I feel like there was the reason Shanks had that one chapter and was so popular is because he was multifaceted. He was chill. He was vibing. Then he killed all those bandits, and then he told the Sea King to fuck the hell off and save Luffy. And he did all those here too, but he just seemed like a chill viber the whole time.
Yeah, I don't know. I still think that the telling the Sea King to get lost did not read chill vibe to me at all.
I feel like he didn't sound angry, and I think he's
not
angry.
I'm like, hold on, I like looked up the let me grab the manga panel and drop it to you real quick, just because it's like he's not like super intense or angry in the manga. He's very just sort of like, I don't know, like he just looks at him and is just like, scram, like get lost.
This is night and day to me.
Really? I don't know. Maybe I have to rewatch it. In the moment when I watched it, I thought it was cool and I thought it worked. So,
fair enough. Yeah, far be it for me to take it away from you. And also, like I think anyone new to the series should love that scene. Yeah. I think that's a badass scene. The reason I'm shitting on it is because I really like that scene, and that was the one that I thought was done. In my opinion, wasn't done the justice that how important that moment felt in the manga. Not to be a hater about it. It's just something.
I'm so curious now because it's like, is it just the Conqueror's hockey use, or is it like all the other stuff around it?
It was Shanks's acting.
Okay,
I feel like
I can get that because I definitely don't think he's definitely not like the strongest actor. Hey, if you're watching this and you have an opinion on this scene in particular, leave a comment. We'd love to hear. I wonder how everyone else feels about this Conqueror's hockey scene because I liked it. Gautam didn't. We both, so I'm curious to hear about from everybody else. Let's talk about the scene where
I think I would have liked it in a vacuum if I hadn't consumed One Piece before, because I think like the parts that make up all, like the whole flashback is very cool. I'm just speaking from a comparison I'm making in my head with source material.
It's kind of the same thing that I had with Buggy, right? Where it's like I've had all this exposure to Buggy, and I wish that the show had done more with the more that I know about him. And I think Shanks is kind of the same, where it's like there's not a whole lot more to know, but the few times that Shanks does appear, you're right, he is like a super badass. He goes up and just talks to the world government and talks to Whitebeard and all these people and Blackbeard.
I just don't feel the gravitas, you know? And
I definitely can see that. And I think that what I was saying was that I think a lot of that, maybe not all of it, but I think a lot of that gravitas comes from not necessarily just Chapter 1 Shanks, but from a lot of the other Shanks we've seen, right, throughout One Piece, which informs.
While that's true, but Chapter 1 Shanks carry that character so far, just from that one chapter, like in popularity polls and like how much people were hyped. It's like, oh fuck, Shanks is back, bro. It's like, and I don't feel like this Shanks invokes that emotion in me, but I'm not a new viewer, so you can let us know.
We'll have
right?
to see,
like, yeah.
And I think let's use that to transition to something that I think that I missed from Shanks and Garp, which was, let's talk about Garp a little bit. Shanks,
like Garp.
I like Garp. He has not shown me the sort of belly laughing goofball that Garp is very, very often in the manga. And I wonder, I hope that we're going to get a moment later on where Garp kind of more cuts loose. Maybe when he like sees Luffy or something. Because he's really serious in this, which is not really... I like him, but he's kind of a different character so far.
You're right. You're right about that. He has had a lot more screen time. He's not really in this part of the manga, or the anime. But Garp is effectively just Luffy.
He's just Luffy, but like, 60 years old. Very, very, very similar characters, yeah.
So but maybe he's just being a professional. Who knows?
See,
but
I was really hoping in episode 2 when he was walking down up and down the lines of Marines, and he like just gets Kobe, and he gets Kobe in the office. I was really hoping that, oh, Kobe's telling him like, oh yeah, his name was Luffy and he wore a straw hat. I was really hoping that, I was like, give me a belly laugh and talk about your grandson. Like, give me a belly laugh and do it. Like, if we had that switch in this episode, it would have been even just one sort of like,
or be more pissed, because he hates that his grandson's about. Like,
yeah, exactly. Or like that gosh dang Luffy. Like, I can't believe he's going to be in a pirate. He should have been a Marine. Like, yeah, some higher energy, maybe, right? Yeah, some higher energy level for Garp, even if it literally just for like one moment would have made me like love it even more. You're right. I do like Garp in this series. He's a different character so far than he is in the.
I think they're trying to play it close to the chest regarding the familial relation.
I hope so. Yeah, I hope that when we get that reveal, probably not in this season, but maybe like when and if we get that reveal, Garp is suddenly like a lot more jovial.
That's after hockey. That's after that's after.
We learned that after in his lobby.
Yeah,
we learned that after Innie's. When is the flashback for Luffy and Ace and Sabo? That's after.
That's that's Marineford. That's Marineford.
Is that Marineford? Okay, yeah.
Innie's lobby is the Water City with Frankie.
Yeah. Water 7, Innie's lobby. Yeah, I was just saying the position of the story is based on where hockey is revealed, and then where we learn about the past. The big flashback for Luffy is there. So.
Yeah. Either way, you're right about Garp. He's I think in the manga, his first introduction, he had like a big dog.
He has the dog hat on that he's wearing.
Yeah.
They just doesn't explain it. I was ready for Kobe to like ask about it, to be like, why is the Vice Admiral wearing a dog hat? But they just didn't explain it. He just wears it. It's like, okay, I'm down for shit like that in this show.
He has a dog ship. Yeah.
Well, and I'm down for just like, oh yeah, this character just wears this ridiculous thing. Like, don't accept it. Don't talk about it. Like, Garp is just wearing a dog like beanie for this part, and he's a Vice Admiral. Like, he's the third highest in command of the Marines. Like,
we had weirdness like that with Helmeppo covering his dick with like a
little stuffed animal,
marine.
Oh, like marine animal. Teddy bear. Yeah.
It's so bizarre.
Yeah,
I love that.
Those little things like that I think are great. Like just Garp wearing a weird hat, or they're just being like a marine stuffed animal, and the Denden Mushi, the transponder snails, I guess we have to call them in English. All the little stuff like that, the little details of this show, I think don't miss. Like, I think the things that miss are like some of the rewrite stuff, a little bit of the character stuff, maybe a little bit of actors, side character, background stuff, but like all the little details they've thrown in, clearly it's fans doing this stuff, right?
Well, even the stuff I complain about, like, this is just me complaining my gripes. Overall, I think these are minor issues.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give I think episode 2 for me was like a 9. Like, if episode 1 I would give a 7, episode 2 I think was just a tightly wound, like a tightly told story. Cutting to flashbacks in a story is not an easy thing to do, and most people mess it up. I complain about flashbacks in shonen manga like all the time on the podcast, and this one I thought was like some of the best flashback cutting I've seen. Cutting it together with like Buggy's kind of interrogation and the straw hat and what it means to him, and then ending with Nami fixing it. Like, all of that stuff in this story, in this episode, works really well.
Little Kid Luffy was good too.
Little Kid Luffy was a great actor. Yeah, he was really good.
Yeah. Two things. I love a line when Zoro cut Buggy, and of course it didn't work because Buggy is the chop fruit. And Buggy says, "Surprise, shithead!"
Yeah, I like that too. That's that's perfect Buggy energy. Surprise, shithead!
It's so funny.
Yeah, I want more like that. I think bringing it into live action gives you the chance to be a little bit more foul-mouthed, and not necessarily foul-mouthed, but a little bit more kind of like gruff, right? Like a little more real, quote unquote, with it, because you're in live action.
They're pirates, right? They're pirates, yeah.
Like in the manga, he would have said like can't catch me, green hair. But it's like in this one, it's like shithead. Like, I think stuff like that is going to be better. I wonder. I don't think I've seen it in any of the trailers. Do you think Sanji calls whenever we get to Sanji? Do you think Sanji calls Zoro eyebrows in this? Because that's what Marimo means, right?
No. Zoro calls Sanji eyebrows.
Zoro calls, sorry, the other way. Yeah, Zoro calls Sanji Marimo.
Marimo is like, grass head or something like.
Grass
I have
head.
no idea.
There you go. Okay, I'm getting it all mixed up. Yeah.
But no, what does Marimo mean? I just kind of
Marimo is a bouncy play ball that has like green moss ball. Is what that
moss
means.
ball.
Moss
Okay.
ball. Okay, yeah. I'm like 3 times mixed up. Yes,
I
Sanji.
think they have to redo the insults.
I think moss head might be, or like something like that. We'll see.
And Sanji's eyebrows aren't crazy in this one, right? I haven't gone to the episode yet, but
I'm not sure either. If they might have big eyebrows. I don't know. Maybe he just calls them eyebrows as like, why are you making fun of my eyebrows? Like they're not that different or weird. I don't know.
I think they'll have the same dynamic with different insults. Probably.
You're probably right there. I think if they did that'll be perfectly happy. Any other thoughts about episode 2? You had one more, right?
Yeah, like Nami was like doing her betrayal stuff at the end, right?
Mm-hmm. With the little transponder earpiece. Yeah.
That was fucking disgusting.
Think about you sticking a snail in your ear. Like,
yeah, it's like this like tiny little slug she just puts in her ear like a Bluetooth headset, and I'm like, it makes sense that because snails are phones, but also gross. Don't do that, Nami. You don't put a slug in your ear. I
mean, they're also like they feed their phones lettuce. It's a little weird and gross. That's the way One Piece is. I don't know. I liked it when they pulled it out. She pulled it out and showed it, and something about it. As a fan, at least, was like, she pulled it out, she opened it up, and I was like, oh, it's a Den Den Mushi earbud. I know exactly what that is. Like, I know exactly what she's about to do with that. She's going to make a call. She's still betraying him. Like, it all made sense to me immediately.
It makes sense, and I liked it, but it was gross. Yeah. I just wanted to point that out. It
definitely is. I wanted to call out something that I thought was really smart in this episode by the showrunners, creators, whoever you want to see, is that there's only, for all of the buggy storyline, so not the flashback stuff, there's only essentially 2 sets they needed for this whole episode, right? There's inside the tent, and there's the room that Zoro and Nami are in. And that's like, budget saving of that is excellent. Because if you tried to adapt the whole way, it's like, there's all these outside scenes, the whole big city that's destroyed, and this one, it's like, no, you get like one shot of outside, and it's a CGI shot, and it's fine. It's for like 3 seconds. I think it's so smart of them to save money on this episode by being like, okay, the whole episode takes place like you have a scene on the boat, and then everything is either under the big top or in the room on the side, and there's like nothing else. And there's like one scene at the end on the docks, right? That's like such a good cost-saving thing. Like, you don't need them to go to different rooms. You don't need them to be big things. Like, that's such a good cost-saving measure. I'm sort of like, and I'm happy because I know that they spent... And the set design stuff is also just excellent. Like, inside the big top looks great. The room that Zoro and Nami are in, I think, looks, I didn't notice it and think that it looked bad, and that's good set design, right? Is if it blends in and just immerses you in the world. So I thought all the set stuff was great.
Agreed. I thought there was like so they skipped the dog thing, right? But the mayor was still there. He looked exactly the same. But they skipped the dog thing, and I think that was a smart decision because you can't go through all that shit. I don't think
you can do that in live action.
Yeah, it just takes too long, right?
There's a whole chapter devoted to a flashback of the dog, like in One Piece, like an entire chapter.
It was a very good flashback.
It is a good flashback,
and I think what that flashback, it was like a very kind of heartbreaking, heartwarming flashback and mini story resolution. But it also kind of showed the kind of pirate Luffy is through very natural action. This also works where he just freed them, but the manga version of this with it was like set up in such a way that I don't know, like it was so narratively satisfying. But I also think it's a good idea that they skipped it because it just does not fit in here. Like, you have so much to do in so little time that that's just one of the sacrifices you make along the way, and it's a necessary one.
So they, let me pose this as a question. I'll make a statement and then I'll ask a question. They went pretty sort of straightforward on the nose with like hashtag not all pirates with Luffy, right? Like I think he literally at one point says like, I'm a different kind of pirate, like quote unquote. How'd you feel about that stuff?
This is it's the same kind of point I have with the bond between the crew feeling a little rushed for me. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where Luffy's explicitly saying it instead of showing it with his actions like he does in the manga because they don't have the time.
But I was going to say, but you
fully
kind of have to do that, because if you don't do that, you won't understand. Like, because you're right, because it takes us. I mean, it really does kind of take all these little things, like helping the way he helped Zoro, and then the dog, and then all these other things, until you reach a certain point and you realize, like, oh yeah, like Luffy, of course, is a good character. He's shown me 40 times in the past 100 chapters that he does good things. But in this one, it's like, you got 2 hours to show me that Luffy's a pirate and a good guy. Like, he frees the slaves. Well, he lets Kobe go and tells him to choose his own path, and says, I'm not like the other pirates. # not all pirates. It's a little on the nose and direct, but I think they had to do it. So I
100% they had to.
I don't really fault them for Luffy literally being like, literally looking at the people that he freed under the big top and was just like, I'm not like the bad pirates. I'm a good pirate, wink. Like, it's like, okay, a little on the nose, but I accept it.
Yeah. On one hand, like, it's impossible to include those things because it would make this a 1,000,000-episode show. But you do feel it missing a little bit, because Luffy is like a character that shows his goodness, quote unquote, through his actions, time and time and time again. And
I think he did here. I'll interrupt. Sorry. I think he does show it through his actions, but then I think that they also felt the need to capstone those actions with him looking at the camera and going, "I'm a good pirate." And it's like, I don't know if they had to do that. I think they probably did, to be honest. But it's also like,
they had to, because let's use the manga as an example. The dog, the town, everything about that was Luffy going out of his way to do the right thing by these people and that one dog. Yeah. Here, this is kind of something anyone would do, right?
True.
Like,
it's very sort of generic good. So the dog thing is less generic good. It's
like, yeah, exactly. Like, you could see like some ain't like 99% of people would just free these people if given the opportunity and seeing over. But that's why they kind of have to say on top of that, it's like, this is not how pirates usually operate. Yeah. But I'm not usual pirates. Whereas in other versions, you can just show it with actions of him going above and beyond.
Yeah. I agree totally. I do think that it was very sort of direct in saying # not all pirates, but I didn't think it was clumsy or sort of miswritten or badly written. It was like as good as it could be, right? It is direct, which is not as good as being sort of very natural story told, but again, in a briefer, shorter type of story, I think that's what they had to do. So I don't think there's any way around that. It's just and this is not even a complaint of mine. It's not. Yeah. It's just something it's just a difference, I would say. It's a difference that is inevitable, and I think it's smart that they skipped it, but it's still like, dang, one of the consequences of adapting this piece of work. Yeah, I mean, it's very much one of those things where it's like, it is an adaptation, and still the manga is the best version. The original is the best version of it, still, for sure.
Yeah, I would agree, but I think I don't know how positive / negative we have been throughout all of this. I still, after these 2 episodes, I'm so pleasantly surprised. I think despite the issues we listed, what works so much better than I ever expected it would.
I mean, I think that's the big sort of one of the big final notes that I had, is that 3 or 4 years ago, you and I agreed, and we said it at the top of the show, you and I agreed this was an impossibility to adapt One Piece, right? It's too goofy, it's too cartoony, it's too wild, it'll never work. And I think the fact that they don't have to give us a perfect show. The fact that they gave us something that's like pretty good is like actually way, 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 way harder than anyone. I want to say than anyone knows, but I think so many One Piece fans know, right? We all like. It was not an uncommon thought that you and I discussed all those years ago that One Piece was impossible to adapt live action. That was not an unpopular opinion. I think most One Piece fans would have told you the exact same thing. If you asked them, hey, could you ever adapt One Piece live action? Some people might have been like, maybe, with enough money. But most people would have been like, no way, never would work. And so the fact that they gave us something that works it's not perfect, but it's good and it works, is like actually a monumental feat that is cannot be stated enough.
Let's ask the important question here. Was the magic there? And in my opinion, yeah. And what really matters is, did we have fun? And did the crew dynamic work? And I think it's an easy yes to both.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, the things that I like to ask myself when I'm being introduced to a story is like, do I buy in and do I like the characters? Which is kind of the same thing that you just said, reworded a little bit, but like something that I'll note just as like a personal experience is, because I knew that we were doing this reaction video, during episode 1, I would like pause every couple of minutes, or a scene would change and I'd pause and like write down a couple quick notes about, we did the Gold Roger intro, write some notes on that, the Alvida stuff, write some notes. By the time I got to like the last 40 minutes, 30 minutes of episode 2, like I didn't pause it because I was in the show, and the show had me, and I didn't want to pause it. I wanted to keep watching and see what was happening and see where it was going and just watch the show. And that means that the show got me to buy in, and you can't ask for more than that. I buy into this show, and that's worth its weight in gold.
And and another thing on top of that is you can just tell that love went into this. It is so goddamn charming. Yeah. So despite like whatever criticisms you and I levied today, I think in my eyes, regardless of sales, I think this was a success. So far,
I think already this is big. It was on Twitter right before this. I believe that on Twitter, One Piece had like 250,000 tweets, and like live action, which is the other half of One Piece live action, had like 150k tweets or something like that. This is big. People are liking it. I think this has like an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes from reviewers and like a 95% from watchers, which is crazy good. People are liking this, and to me, it is getting better as it goes through these first 2 episodes, at least. I hope that they can continue the upward trajectory of it getting better and better. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I agree. And I've heard from one of my buddies who is also a fan of One Piece, who's like, episode 1 was okay. And he's
is this Bobbert? Is this our friend Bobbert, or is this somebody else?
No,
not Bobbert.
One Piece. But like
he hates One Piece. He would hate One Piece.
Yeah, he would. Should taste my guy. But he was like, yeah, episode 1 was okay, and then like later in the day, he's like, yeah, I'm on episode 7. This thing really hit us. I'm like, you're on episode fucking 7?
I'm feeling it. And like sitting here talking about it, like I don't know how you feel. I think when we turn this off, I'm gonna go watch like the next 2 episodes. Like I want to keep watching it. So.
Yeah, me too. I think we'll be back soon.
I think we'll be back real soon. Yeah. I wanted to do a couple. Thoughts? Yeah, I had a couple real quick things. One thing I wanted to call out is the music in the series is exceptional. I was downstairs doing dinner and I was singing. I was ba, 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 ba. I like had the theme in my head, and like people don't realize that's so hard to do. Like Stranger Things did it. Like people knew the Stranger Things theme. It was memed to death. I think the fact that they hit on a theme and were able to iterate on it in a couple of different ways and themes and styles throughout the show that I heard was really good. I'm really liking the music in the series. I think the music is adding and elevating to the series, not taking away, and it isn't boring and in the background I'm like hearing it and noticing it. I think it's great. So I wanted to call that
good sound design across the board.
Yeah, all the sound stuff is really good. The sounds that like Luffy and Buggy's powers, the cannons, the fight scene sounds are all really good. I really like that a lot. Let's do a real quick. Do you have a single favorite scene out of both of these 2 episodes?
I think it would be Buggy and Luffy talking while Buggy's torturing Luffy.
The stretch when he's being stretched out or whatever.
When he's being stretched out, and also when they're talking when he's in the water tank.
In the water tank, yeah.
I thought both of those were really good, and I'd have to say that's my favorite. But the second is like any of the Straw Hats together, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say I actually think my favorite scene is the very start of episode 2, where the 3 of them are on the boat trying to crack the safe. Like that's people say it all the time. Like that's peak One Piece, is just crew on the boat doing stuff, like messing around. So I really like that scene. Do you have a favorite character?
Nami.
You think Nami's your favorite character? All right, I'm gonna go
easily.
Fuck it, I'll pick the main character. I think Luffy's great. Every time he's on scene,
he's amazing.
He's so good.
He oozes charisma. Like,
yeah.
I think Nami's my favorite because I think her character is the most one-to-one, but also her actress portrays
it's
her. It's like I can't think of anyone who would be better for that role.
She's, I think her and the actor who plays Zoro, obviously, who's Japanese, back in you, those two are the ones who were like anime and manga fans like before this was even announced. Like I've seen interviews with her talking about like she's like her favorite anime is Made in Abyss, which is like that's not like a super deep cut, but that's like a little bit deeper than, like, oh, my favorite is My Hero Academia.
Yeah.
13-year-old robot. But yeah, I think it shows that she understands.
That my favorite is Made in Abyss.
That's a good show. It definitely has issues. The show has.
If anyone asks me questions about it, I wouldn't know how to answer.
Have I read? I have not read. I have read it. Yeah, I think Zoro is a close second for like me, and probably for you too. I would like definitely top 3.
Maybe
Helmeppo is second for me. I really liked Helmeppo.
Oh, he was
so fun. Characters that are fun to hate are great, and I hated Helmeppo, and he was perfect.
I think the top 5 would be in order.
And Buggy.
Nami, Buggy, Luffy, Zoro, Helmeppo.
Yeah,
and then Kobe is
and Kobe's also good. And just to say, like, the fact that we have so many favorite characters already 2 episodes in shows that they're doing something really right.
Casting is fucking amazing, dude.
It's so good.
It's just all going well.
Yeah. Anything was your favorite that you thought they took sort of straight out of the manga, where it's like, I remember that from the pages of the manga, and there it is on screen, and I really like it.
Nami sewing up Luffy's hat.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that scene was fucking magic.
Yeah, it works super well. I will go on the opposite end of the spectrum and just say I think the Denden Mushis are fucking great. Like, they're so good. The fact that they make the little like barra sound when they ring and is like so goofy, and it's like they're so silly and so ridiculous, but also like they're gonna be everywhere in a couple, like, the longer it goes on, you start getting like TV Denden Mushis and radio Denden Mushis, and it's like, okay, you have to establish that these things are everywhere and exist in weird different styles. I love that was like there was no quarter was given. They literally just made a transponder snail and put it in the show, and they were like, yep, there it is. Like, we just did it.
It's funny. It makes even less sense than the One Piece source material, because Garp is like talking through the intercom thing on the Denden Mushi, and they're like burr, 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 back, and it's like, you have nothing near your ear, Garp. How do you know what they're saying?
It was a little sad that they didn't commit to like the face of the Denden Mushi changing into the face of the person on the other side and talking to them. That we'll see if they do that. I don't know if they will. That might be too far.
I think this is just a cartoony thing that you just buy into. It's like, okay, Garp can hear it, but we can't. Fine.
Yeah. Okay, one last question then. What was your favorite thing that they changed? We did our favorite thing that you think was straight from the pages. I'll start with favorite thing that they changed. I actually think that just introducing Nami in the Logetown, in that whole, not Logetown, wherever they are.
Shelltown.
Shelltown. There's so many towns. Like introducing Nami in Shelltown and sort of kind of rewriting and restructuring that whole thing, even though I thought episode 1 was weaker than episode 2. I thought that the way that they restructured that and gave us 3 Straw Hats immediately instead of just 2, I thought that worked exceptionally. So I really liked the rewrites they did there.
I appreciate setting up Baroque Works and
yes, good call.
Yeah, because they set up Baroque Works in both episodes. With Mr. 7 being cut in half, and that instantly gives Zoro like more personal stake in the Alabasta arc. That will
you've already connected him to something that's gonna be my favorite One Piece arc. I think the best One Piece arc.
And
which will just be season 2, hopefully. So
it's an easy thing to do because Zoro really didn't have connection to Baroque Works in any way, aside from being on the Straw Hat Pirates. But it's cool that there is an established personal connection that was so easily done right off the bat. Right?
Yeah, it's a super good change because I think we already talked about it, but it broadens the world. It shows you that there's a big bad out there that the Marines are after, that are trying to recruit a pirate hunter, that to me it already lends more credence and power to the leader of Baroque Works, right? Who we'll get to in season 2. Who is in my opinion one of, if not the best villains in One Piece.
He's so tight. Yeah.
Maybe second best, because honestly, like, Don Quixote Doflamingo is hard to beat.
Awesome.
Doflamingo might be my favorite bad guy, and he just had that's just the best name in all of fiction. Is Don Quixote Doflamingo is the
and
best
his getup is a vibe, dude.
It's so good. Yeah, it's so good. Okay,
another change actually. I can't confirm this is like a change that they've made until I see more, but I'm glad that they skipped Zoro's backstory.
Yes, I totally skipped over that, but yeah, I am also glad. I wondered if they were going to do it. I was like, are they going to flash back to a girl falling down the stairs? They did not. I would almost rather them keep Zoro's backstory more kind of mysterious than to show what was written in the manga, because it's like, let's be honest, Zoro's backstory is actually maybe the worst writing in One Piece. Like, it might be.
It is bizarre to this day that Oda wrote that backstory,
and that he hasn't gone back to rewrite it at like any point. He could have expanded on it at any time. Maybe he still will.
The dude just doesn't retcon, but that's fair. But like, it's bizarre that Oda wrote that, considering the quality of his writing at every other opportunity. Mm-hmm. Also, no treasure chest man. I'm glad. That was stupid.
I think there'll be anyone that has a weird shaped or sized body. I think will just be normalized, which I am okay with. So.
You think Foxy?
There's a picture of Foxy on the wall in Shelltown.
Yeah. He's so strange.
I'm thinking stuff like, if we get to Big Mom, like, they might make Big Mom like 8 or 10 feet tall. Like, she's not going to be 30 feet tall.
Bro,
like,
we're not getting to Big Mom.
Yeah, you're right, but I'm trying to think, because Crocodile even is Crocodile's like 10 feet tall, right? Like, he's probably just a normal dude if we get to Crocodile, right?
I just imagine Luffy as my height and everyone else as giants, when in actuality Luffy's like 5'4", right?
I was about to say, I think Luffy's very short. Like, I think that we are taller than all the Straw Hats except for
Brook.
Yeah, except for maybe Brook and maybe Jinbei. Jinbei might be like taller.
Frankie would be.
And Frankie's really well. Frankie's height is variable, so who knows?
He could be as tall as he wants.
Yeah, I think when he's first introduced, he's probably like 5'8", but now he's like 6'10" or something. Yeah, we'll see.
Must be nice.
Cool. Any final thoughts? Overall things?
No, I'm just looking forward to more, and
me too.
We'll give you our potentially shit takes going forward.
We'll see. I hope it keeps up the quality. I think as long as it doesn't dip below episode 1 quality, we're in for a good ride. Even though episode 1 wasn't perfect, I thought it was good enough and fun, and I liked it.
I had a really fun time. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? That for One Piece, saying that I had a fun time, that's what it's all about. So that's a huge endorsement for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Anything else?
Nah.
Is that it?
That's about it.
Let's get back. Yeah. Hey, if you're watching this, thanks for watching. Give our page a like and subscribe. I'll put this out on podcast also, so maybe you're just listening to it. There's not a whole lot to see. We didn't put any pictures up or anything. So thank you for being here. Please come back. We're going to be doing 3 more of these to cover the whole 8-episode season. And yeah, hey, leave us your comments on what did you think about episode 1? What did you like? Who were your favorite characters? What was your favorite change if you're a manga reader? What was your favorite part if you're not a manga reader? Let us know.
And what do you think of Shanks? Tell us about Shanks.
Yeah, tell us what you think about Shanks and that the scene where he stares down the Sea King. That's our biggest disagreement here in the first 2, so we'll see what is going forward. So, yeah, most of all, thank you for being here.
Goodbye.
And don't forget, watch more One Piece live action. Adios.